New season, who dis? What this year's results at the Games tells us about the athlete field turnover and the youth movement at the top this week on Inside the Leaderboard. What's up everyone, Tommy Marquez here with another edition of Inside the Leaderboard presented by Thorn. And now that we have year one in the books for this new season, I had a few stats that were rolling around in the old noggin that I wanted to investigate relative to past seasons. And we're going to start with attrition, or as it's sometimes known, is churn rate, or the percentage of athletes from a given year that don't make it back to the Games the next season. We've got the churn rate for the last 4 times the CrossFit Games season has had a sizable overhaul in its system. In the 3 previous times, the churn rate has actually increased over the average of previous years, sitting in the range of about 55 to 60%, and it's worth noting we use the same qualifying criteria from stage 1 of last year as the parameters going from 2018 to 2019, just to keep things consistent. But 2020 into this year was different. We actually saw the rate decrease, likely due to the fact that there were 20 more spots up for grabs at the Games this year compared to last year. So while changing the system often causes a bigger turnover of athletes, relative size of the field can have a larger effect. Moving on now, I want to address and investigate a narrative that's been floating around about the average age of the sport trending younger due to the emergence in recent years of athletes like Haley Adams, Justin Medeiros, Guy Mayeros, and Mal O'Brien. Looking at the data on the women's side first, I compared the average age and individual experience at the Games of the top 10 athletes from this season to 2018, when we last had a similar format and field size at the Games. And while the average age of the top 10 did decrease by about a half a year, the experience level went up by 3/4 of a year, highlighting the strong group of perennial contenders on the women's side that has balanced out the emergence of young guns like Mal, Haley, and Gabby Magawa, with more athletes north of 30 years old and north of 5 years experience in 2021 than 2018. On the men's side, things favor the established elite even more relative to a few years ago, with both the average experience and average age of the top 10 men going up in 2021. Now, the average age effectively remained constant, going up by only 1/10 of a year, but the experience went up by over a year, meaning that the steady presence of athletes like Vellner, Bukowski, BKG, and Noah Olson still outweigh the emergence of Justin Medeiros as the youngest champ ever on the men's side, because 5 men had more than 5 years experience at the Games in 2021 compared to 0 in 2018. So even though that it feels like the sport is trending towards the younger side of things at the top, the data for now tells us otherwise, and it's possible that performances like Medeiros or Haley Adams that are stellar just end up weighing a little bit heavier in our minds than we previously thought. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Leaderboard presented by Thorn. The latest episode of Miles to Madison, our series covering the CrossFit Games season, is out now. Be sure to check in with the CrossFit Games YouTube for episodes posting each week.